You can either take the red pill, you'll wake up, everything was a dream, or you can take the black pill, you can get torched.
Well, I suppose getting torched won't hurt that much. I don't feel anything.
Wait for it.
Oh, wait. I just got a new client.
Get torched! Get torched! Get torched!
I'm Wayne Carey, and this is The Truth Hurts.
Well, we're back again for The Truth Hurts. I'm Eaton Woolley alongside the King, Wayne Carey. The AFL season has been done and won. Is that the saying?
And the NRL.
And the NRL. Amazing 24 hours of sport with those two matches. Have you survived the weekend is the big question, Doug, because I know it's a big week on many fronts for you.
Not just the weekend, but the whole week. What a week Melbourne put on. And doesn't this place change? I mean, I've been in Melbourne since I was 16, had a little bit of a layover in the great state of South Australia and Adelaide. Went up to the Gold Coast when I was on the run for about a year, but pretty much from the age of 16, I've lived in Melbourne. Doesn't the whole vibe of this city change when the weather is good?
It's helpful, very helpful.
We've had a whole week. We've had it's just been amazing.
Yeah.
And to see people in cafes and you know, people flying in, and I happened to be at the airport on Friday, and I was actually in Brisbane on Friday, then came back. So I was on all of those planes, were absolutely chockers. People at the airport were flying to either Sydney or Melbourne for their respective grand finals in the NRL and the AFL. So, it's just been a buzz. I've loved the whole build up to this year's grand final, and oh boy, didn't they turn on an absolute ripper? Some saying I don't know what you think. Some are saying that this is maybe one of the greatest since 1989.
Yeah, so I don't have great memories of that being 1 year old at the time.
How old were you?
One, yeah.
You look a lot older than that. Have I told you that before?
Yeah, I may have heard that once or twice before. So I can't really...
So you were born in 1990?
1988, so I was...
Oh, so sorry. Oh, sorry, I thought, yeah.
Good maths there.
So you're 1988.
So I've seen highlights of 89, obviously, but I haven't seen the game in full.
So the year I came to Melbourne,
yep,
you were born. That's when I came to Melbourne. So I was 16. So we're 16 years apart, that means.
And somehow I'm more mature than you are.
Well, that's not hard. That's not hard.
Oh, it's definitely in my recent memory that the best... Because you can have close games and good games.
Yeah. So,
and I think it was both.
So what you're saying is 05, 06, because people automatically say, well, you know, the West Coast Sydney... back-to-back grand finals, both within a kick, were amazing, close grand finals. But the fact that it was a bit of a boring game in between.
About 7 goals each, weren't they, those games or something? Yeah, a bit of a slog.
So you love the goal fest?
Well, I think there was a good mix. I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be, 20 goals a team, but I just felt like it was a good game of footy, had some big moments, and we'll talk about those
Flash moments, had big goals, big marks.
Yep.
It had everything. And once again, the fact that the sun was out, the birds were chirping, over 100,000 people at the MCG, even the parade. Last year they did the...
Yeah, they fixed the parade.
They did the parade down the river, which I didn't mind for a bit of a mix up. And then we've obviously had a couple of grand finals away from the MCG. Just every aspect of it was just incredible. And on top of that, I'm prepared to say I thought Kiss were amazing. Now their voice is about as good as mine now, or maybe a little bit better, but they're not. Their vocals, how old are they?
About 100? I don't know. Bloody old.
Well, you can't tell because they've got makeup on, but
they're an entertainment product now as much as...
I've got a few mates that go to a lot of bands, and they've heard Kiss a lot of times over the years, and they recently went and watched them, and they said they were not great live anymore. In saying that, I thought, one, because of the crowd and it gets drowned out, I don't think, we were really focusing on the vocals of it, but I thought the entertainment of it and the way it was put together, I don't know who does that. Do the AFL get involved in that whole production, or is that all run by
I'd say more
Kiss business.
more likely Kiss would have certain parameters around what happens. I would.
So
I would
all
think.
those little kids, that made it. That made it even more spectacular. It did. It was incredible. All the kids that got involved, and the dancers, and the synergy of it all. I thought it was really entertaining. Now I wasn't there live. I was just watching it on TV, which I thought, by the way, they did a pretty good job. Some people have been critical of the fact that they didn't get the smashing of the guitar.
Director, come on, you got to get that though. You have a few sleepless nights for the director.
Well, yeah, you probably got to get. That's the climax moment of Kiss right at the end to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, supposedly. I'm not a big.
So
Kiss
all
fan.
in all, so the build up, the week.
Can I just say though, I'm kind of a bit relieved that it's all over now. This is my first grand final I haven't worked in 12 or 13 years, and so I enjoyed that side of it. But mentally, financially, after the past month, I need a break.
You need a break.
I need a break. Too many social activities.
This is the first Monday you've actually been sober, I reckon, for 4 weeks.
Well, yeah, and I don't know how yesterday I felt unbelievable, which is. I feel, you don't get hangovers, but for people that do, every now and then you get a free pass where you just, for whatever reason, you feel great the next day. So I got that. But it was one of those ones where the stars sort of aligned for me. So on the Friday, I do feel a bit bad about this. I hosted a function at Yarraville, at the footy club that I played reserves footy for this year. It was one of those reverse raffles where you draw the numbers out and the last one left wins the cash. And not working at the moment, I'm not that financial, so I was thinking, geez, it'd be pretty good to win this. But I was the one pulling the balls out. But so it was above board. The president, before I arrived, pulled out the 3 winners who were set aside. You go through all the numbers and then you count down the top 3. Well, I bought a ticket with 5 minutes before the start of the event. Bought 3 tickets. I said to my mate, do you want to come in with me and buy a few extra tickets? And bought a ticket.
Oh, sure.
And won the
you won it.
Won the $3,000 at the footy club.
You just won it. You can't take it. You didn't take it, did you?
Well, I haven't got it yet, but I was like, well, what do you want to do? What's the go? And they said, oh no, you take it. And I was like,
so you drew yourself.
No. So the president drew the 3 winners out. I drew the other 300.
Okay.
So he set them aside because legally and apparently he meant to.
No, of course. Yeah,
so
yeah. It was all legit, but it's just,
I was worried other people would think
Of course.
Yeah, and so I was obviously copped a fair bit of stick for
I
that.
don't think it'd be the first time there's been a rort in a pulling balls out at a footy club or a raffle.
I know, but I normally they pull it out for some really deserving club member or
well done.
or a senior player who needed a bit of extra cash with his match payments or something like that.
Let's go back because we didn't touch on. We gave our tips for the Brownlow medal. Let's go back to the Monday where the week started because Lachie Neale won the Brownlow. It'd be fair to say his own admission he didn't have the best year that he's ever had, but he comes away a dual Brownlow medalist now. What did you think of those events and of Bontempelli and Dacos and all the other favourites?
Yeah, well, Bont was my tip, and when he hit the front at the end, I wasn't aware that Lachie Neale's last game had been that good. I think others were. I'm happy for Lachie Neale. I mean, I think he's a really solid player. I didn't have him in the top, however many for the season. So I guess it was surprising in that regard, wasn't it? And now in the era of social media, every little game is highlighted. Where 20 stat game where he gets 3 votes, and
it's another example. It is a flawed system. We know that the umpires have got a tough job, and they're flat out doing that sometimes, let alone to give votes. So the debate will always be there. It's got to remain. It'll never change. It'll always be an umpires award. It is an AFL umpires award, and that's how it'll stay. Yeah. And it will be flawed, and sometimes we will get winners that maybe didn't deserve votes in certain games, and players will miss out and all of that sort of stuff. So you complain as much as you want, but that's been going on forever.
Yep. I've sort of fluctuated on this. On the night, I'm going, we've got to take it away from the umpires. But then I thought it sort of adds to the unpredictability of it. And at the same time, when we're talking about midfielders' medal and that sort of thing, and the umps give it to the mids, well, most of the media awards are midfielder awards as well. It
gives us something to whinge about.
Exactly. Now, Mad Monday for Collingwood today. Interesting to see some of the costumes that were being worn there. I saw Taylor Adams as Tony Jones, actually. A few Peaky Blinders in there, Pendles and Jeremy Howe and Jordan De Goey. And then the one that I liked the most was Jack Ginnivan. So Jack Ginnivan winning Jockey Silks today. And so it's a bit of quick thinking here. I don't know if he was smart enough to think of this, or someone's maybe tapped him on the shoulder and said you should wear this. But he went to the races on Friday night. Now, I've had a lot of people say to me, "No, you should keep your life normal, should be allowed to do it." But don't you open yourself up to something going wrong? So he went. He had a mate's horse running at Moonee Valley. Apparently, he was there for an hour and a half. Collingwood said, "We're not making a big deal of it."
Mate's horse are going into a grand final. If they get beat, they've won by 4 points. If they get beat, then this becomes a bigger story. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
They don't. They get away with it. I reckon quietly they would have had a chat to him and said, "Mate, that's an error."
Yeah.
And people will say, "Oh, why isn't it?" Well, because of that. Because anything could happen. You're in public for starters the night before the GF. I don't know what happens if you're in an Uber or you're in a car crash on the way home. And I know you might normally drive up to the pizza shop, and that could happen as well. But it's just something. It was. I don't think it was a smart move by him. In saying that, they win the grand final. He gets away with it. He's got a premiership medallion, and they can all probably have a laugh at it, and everyone will say, "Well, he should have had a life." I'll give you a big example, and I have said this. I have said this at a few different places that I've spoken at over time, and that is I had a chance to meet Muhammad Ali in 1998. Now, that's a little bit bigger than watching your mate's horse run. And I said no to meeting my hero because I thought if we lose, so there was no chance, I don't think, of Muhammad's people punching me up, but or getting into any trouble by doing that.
Yep.
But I thought if we lost, Dennis would say that my focus wasn't on the game. It was about going to beat Muhammad. And, invariably we lost anyway. So at the end of the game, it was a double whammy. Didn't meet my hero. And
It's such a fine line.
I'd love to know if the horse won and he had any money on it.
Well, maybe we should. Well, maybe that'll come out in the wash. It isn't funny in the final because you talk about margins, and so Jack Ginnivan's Friday night at the races gets viewed in a funny light because the Pies win. Yep. Another one for me was the Billy Frampton's game. He has 2 disposals, 0-1, and people are talking about how he played his role on Harris Andrews, who incidentally ended up with about 7 intercept disposals, most of them in the last quarter. So still had a solid game for Brisbane. Maybe not what he could have done, but I think. Isn't it just that?
Oh, it's a fine line. They lose, and they won 3 finals by 12 points. But by the way, congratulations to Collingwood. We will talk about the game as well. They've done it for 2 years now. You can call. I'm one that calls all these games. I say, well, if you win, and it's true, if you win, they're lucky. If you lose, you're unlucky. Well, Collingwood have almost turned that on its head because they've just done it so consistently. And they say a skill is not a skill until it's performed consistently. Well, they've consistently won close games for the last 2 years now. So this has become a skill of theirs.
Yep.
So you give credit where credit's due to all the Collingwood people out there. Congratulations. It was a ripper. You're right. Collingwood with Frampton, and Ginnivan, all of these little backstories that go on, and you find out afterwards, or one's performance doesn't get the scrutiny that it would get if there was one kick the difference.
Yeah.
And that's the amazing thing. But let's celebrate what was an unbelievable game. From start to finish, the fast start, Bailey just kicking 2 unbelievable goals. It had everything. 1 quarter, 11 goals in 1 quarter. Just unbelievable footy all round, wasn't it?
It was, a great game of footy in terms of the moments too. Like Collingwood owned the moments at different times, didn't they? With 2 goals after quarter time, half time. Geordie to go, he probably has a quiet first half and then steps up when he needed. Scott Pendlebury's last quarter, there were so many guys that delivered.
Well, Collingwood had the big special moments. So Bailey and Cameron kicked some great goals, but Hill was incredible. But then you look at the De Goey and the crisp goals and that after the siren and the big, they really big moments. Collingwood, I think, own those moments. And there was a guy that I think he's the oldest player on the ground, wasn't he? Scott Pendlebury?
I'd say he probably would have been.
Who else would be older than him? No one.
No.
I'm prepared to say that. If I'm wrong, I'm sure you'll let me know. But what a player Scott Pendlebury is, and what a last quarter he had. 9 disposals, just controlled the game. You know, the game when everyone else is absolutely buggered and just, you know, it was frantic and the game goes either way. He just does what he has done for 17 years or whatever it is. And, you know, the balk and the just everything just so smooth. The game slows down around him. I think it's time we acknowledge what some people have said for a while, and I think that Nathan Buckley is the greatest modern... he's taken over the mantle from Nathan Buckley as the greatest modern-day pie.
Yeah, so it's hard for us, isn't it,
AFL.
To make a judgment on, say, a Gordon Coventry or someone like
Correct.
that.
No, AFL era. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't compare eras. So in the AFL era, I think he's the best pie that we've ever seen.
So he's got longevity now, but he's got the 2 flags, a Norm Smith in 2010.
He's got the B&Fs. He's got everything. He's ticked every single box there is. And then in big moments, he's done it all. He's won Anzac Day medals and they're massive games. He's a superstar. The other thing that defines him a little bit more than Bucks is the premierships has won, right? So he's been able to get his side over the line in 2 premierships. And I think he's kicking. I think he kicks the ball better than Bucks.
Which is interesting because Bucks was known as an elite kick.
Bucks was known as an elite long, hard kick.
Yeah.
He didn't have the touch that Pendlebury has.
Yeah, okay.
Pendlebury and Pendlebury's and Bucks a bit like the Dangerfield, you know, gets it, burst, bang. You know, didn't have that finesse, I don't think had the vision either of Pendlebury. Probably not too many players ever played the game that has the vision of Pendlebury. So, you know, I think there's just a few little things that now separate the two, and I'm prepared and happy to say now that, and it's not just the premiership. It's probably been for a little while, and I know, you know, there'll be people out there that happily debate it with you, and it is splitting hairs. But, you know, 2 premierships. I think the biggest gap now, I think obviously Sidebottom and Pendlebury, I think they hold the record now from first premiership to second premiership. You know, great story. And the way he played and the way he's been playing, he'll play for another couple of years and maybe break the games record as well in the next couple of years as well. So, you know, for the longevity part of it as well and the consistency over that, then, you know, let's put it to bed. I'm sure we'll have plenty of people that want to throw in their statistics and argue it, and that's what we're here to do. But I'm saying Pendlebury, best AFL pie of all time. Remembering Dacos and those played their best footy before that. I know premiership in '90, but you know, some people say Dacos. He's my number one.
Now, before we move on, I'm just going to highlight this because, I mean, didn't win the Norm Smith, but he was my Norm Smith tip. I said on this, 26 disposals and 1 goal was my tip. You got 24 and 1. Didn't quite get the 26, so I didn't get the medal. Who did you tip, by the way, in the game again?
Charlie Cameron.
And Brisbane.
And Brisbane. So, by the way, Charlie Cameron kicks another one and Brisbane win. And
I think we've proved consistently over this year. He's doing the same
thing as Bobby Hill.
So you might be, you know, one of the greatest players of all time, perhaps in your own eyes, the greatest player of all time. But I think over the year we've proved that my football knowledge might have just gone. If we're talking about players who've gone past, I think there's an upward.
Gone past.
I've just gone past you there with the Brownlow grand final.
Well, who'd you have for the Brownlow?
Bond. He didn't.
Oh, that's right. Oh, sorry, you went the favourite.
He was second favourite.
You went the favourite.
Dacos was the favourite. Just still on the grand final and on moments and different things that we take out of the games. I did text you once during the game, and I believe you might have got a few more text messages around the time that a certain Collingwood forward snapped a goal from about 40 metres out. Would that be fair?
Yes, my check. It was solid, but that's the strength of this Collingwood team. They don't rely on any one individual. It does throw up the debate, though, just while we're on that. A few players that obviously missed out. Adams and McStay, the two obvious, you know, for Collingwood. And, Jack Payne for Brisbane that miss out. Now, we did say this a couple of weeks ago, but we'll just back over it again. I think there should be maybe a threshold on how many games if you get a medal. Like maybe not one, if you just play one. But it does take a squad. And this is, I think Joel Selwood might have spoken about, Trent Cotchin might have spoken about it during the week as well. I have been saying this now for a couple of years, and that is it does take a whole squad to win a flag, and if you play a certain amount of games, you deserve a medal. Some, and I'll back over, some will have it pride and joy sitting on their mantelpiece, and others will say, no, I don't deserve it because I never played on that day. But it doesn't matter. It should be offered to those players that contributed a certain amount. Yeah,
I feel so sorry for Taylor Adams and your McStays and your John Nobles and these guys, but I still, you just don't. It's a not very nice thought, very thoughtful of you, but sorry, not taking.
Well done to Bobby Hill, by the way.
Yeah, it's a huge game.
Yeah, big game.
Not just the goals.
No, the defensive part of it. Yeah. Isn't it funny? Because I looked at Charlie Cameron and I said, could he do a Cyril Rioli and kick 4 and put that pressure on? And Bobby Hill did exactly that for Collingwood. Yeah. It was an elite performance. You can't underestimate 4 goals in a grand final with that type of heat.
Absolutely, and big moments, and passed off a couple as well.
Correct.
It wasn't just
score assists.
Wasn't just the goals that he scored. Yeah, huge game from Bobby Hill. The Collingwoods, you look at what they've done since they got rid of the 3 guys in the one trade period who was at Phillips. They've since got rid of Brodie Grundy, and your man at North Melbourne, who I've just Jaden Stevenson. Stevenson. So they've made some
Treloar.
And Treloar as well, was the other one. So they've made some big moves in terms of salary. The guys they've added have just been role players, haven't they? They've added Bobby Hill, they've added Tom Mitchell, they've added McStay, who was obviously a big part of their season. So they've just been really shrewd around the edges of helped having your really established players like Pendlebury and Sidebottom still deliver deep into their careers, obviously. But
it's all the older players on grand final day all played really well, didn't they?
Yep.
And you're right. They've been able to handpick, a bit like Hawthorn were able to do different times. They've obviously got Lake and Hale and, a few others from different clubs as well that came in to help them. Gibson was another one they got from North Melbourne. It's funny, I heard Clarko talking about, that sort of happening, with Big Mackay leaving and all of this sort of stuff. And I thought,
isn't it funny how it changes?
Memory.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It does, but no, and you're right. They've been very smart in the way they've done that. And let's talk about McRae. I mean, his wife's gone into labour the night or the morning of grand final, and he's had to go to the hospital at 6 a.m. So it's reported. Whether that's right or not, who knows? But he invariably has a baby. It's just
imagine what's going around in his head when all this is going on.
Great story all around.
Yeah.
And the other thing that he had a reunion for the.
Was it yesterday? Was it?
Yeah. So he turned up to that as well. Just awesome. The other thing I want to touch on before we get onto the NRL grand final, because that was just as good, and that is you watch the players turn up now after they win, and back in the day you turn up and you just hung over. You can't string a sentence together. You look like you look like your death warmed up. And the players these days, not all of them, but most of them, they turn up and they soak it in. And I don't expect anything else from Pendles, but he said he got up, he got home early and wanted to wake up and have a coffee and just soak it all in. And you see a few others, and I saw Jeremy Howe get interviewed. He looked as fresh as a daisy, and didn't have as big a night because he wants to soak it all up. And I was sitting there and I sort of flicked the switch back.
So what you did on your...
I wish I'd done that.
Well, what did you do on your premiership nights? Were they the same if you'd lost or won a grand final or you went...
Yeah, no, they were hard. You're drowning or you're celebrating. Yeah. You're drowning your sorrows in 98, celebrating.
So where would you go? Would you go back to the club? Would you go... You had an official function maybe at Crown or something? Or?
I think it was 96... We were sponsored by Santa Fe Gold, or the pub underneath it, and strip joint above it. So we had the perfect sponsor. So we went straight back there and stayed there for 3 days, just in the pub downstairs, of course.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine.
Yeah. So it was very different. But and yes, you remember the celebrations, but I just wish I'd taken it a little bit easier.
Fair enough.
Just to soak it in, and then obviously you go back to Arden Street like they did, and you see all the supporters, which what makes it so special.
You mentioned those players and how they were. They have been a very open footy club, and Craig McRae's been part of that. When we're talking about coaches, got thinking about another one in Nathan Buckley, who we spoke about before when comparing to Pendles. I heard Bucks speak today about how he was quite emotional during the game, but I wonder if he was also, if there's maybe a few conflicted thoughts in his mind as well, if he'd admit to himself in his quieter moments about, he's been at this footy club involved for so long and hasn't had that same success that he would have craved so much.
I've heard him speak about it. For me, I can only speak on my behalf. I don't know how Nathan Buckley thinks. I'd be surprised if Bucks doesn't have some envy in regards to what Collingwood, didn't win one as a player and obviously came so close to winning one, as a coach, and now McRae's won one, which is another, in a close game. There would have to be a little bit of envy. But once again, I don't know. I know I certainly would have a little bit of that. He's a pretty proud guy, and there would have to be a lot of emotion. He had control of this team 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? Yeah,
this was
not that long ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe he would think he's played a role in the development of a lot of the guys that are now.
and he probably should feel like he has, because he has, and he's also got a few of those players in. He was one of the ones that took Darcy Moore from forward to back, I assume. He was not doing so well as a forward, and but that was another touching moment. So Bucks has played a role in developing a few of these. I think Bucks played a role in Jeremy Howe going from forward from Melbourne to being a defender. Yep. So think about all of those key decisions that have helped make up this premiership. So he would have to have some proud feelings as well with what he's been able to help with. Were you all soppy like some people with Darcy Moore and his dad Peter?
Oh,
you're not a soppy. You're not a soppy. You're not a rom-com man, are you?
I'm still a bit. I've got great respect for both Darcy and Peter Moore. I'm still a bit burnt from. He gave me one almighty spray one year, Peter Moore.
Did he?
He went on SEN one day and said a few things about the. I don't know if I've said this before, or if I should be saying it or not.
Oh yeah, go with it. It's called The Truth Hurts.
He went on and said a few things about the game plan. Was when Darcy was playing forward. It was when Tony Shaw was calling them the Collingwood Crabs and they were going backwards and sideways. Yeah. He said, it's really hard to be a forward in this team. And I the way I reported it was that he, said it was tough. I basically just reported what he said.
Yeah.
And he got the information secondhand. I tried to call him during the day and said, would you be willing to come on camera so we can, and he goes, no, I'm not really keen. But the next day someone had told him how I'd reported it and he called me and just tore shreds off me for the way you said I was questioning Bucks and this and that. And I said, did you watch the story, Peter? He said, no, I got told. And I said, well, maybe.
Watch the story.
But so since then, if Peter Moore's around, I'll just shrink into the, because he's quite an imposing man himself, Peter Moore as well. No, I was happy for them. I mean, it was not when you could see the pride in his eyes seeing Darcy there, couldn't you? So
the moment where Darcy throws down the medal, is that because he saw teammates coming and he.
I think he was looking at his dad, and then he got swamped by his mates, and then he got.
No, but he threw down the medal before that.
Oh, I didn't see that. So,
yeah,
I was probably having a drink at that.
A little bit more of I don't know why it wasn't around his neck, but so you weren't overly touched, and then what about?
I was happy for them.
What about the handing out of the medals and the.
You got to shake. You got to make sure that's a crucial moment.
Yeah, but why make a big story of that? And
no, I know. There's not a big story.
Once again, who wrote that crap?
Oh, be staff writers.
Hey,
no one to put their name to it. But, but you do have the little kid. Kid,
yeah, I know. You're caught up. You've just won a grand final. Not everyone's going to get it. Not everyone's going to get it right. And I get that. I get that there was a little tacker there, ready to get handshake, and some players are really understanding. They're in the moment, and the other player. I don't know who the player was.
Bo McCreary, I think, was one.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, just come on.
So when Carter, in 2020, in 2030, when North Melbourne wins the flag and Carter's, how old will he be then? 12, 13 or something?
Well, if the little, I'm sure they'll reach out and do something, but it's just let's cool our jets a little bit and understand that
Did they have little kids on the dice when you won the flags or not?
I can't even remember. I couldn't tell you. I assume.
So you probably probably wasn't. You didn't shake
I don't think. I don't think they did. No, they didn't because I'd remember.
Some little kids held a
They
grudge
might have
against
been
you.
99. They didn't in. I know they. I'm pretty certain they didn't in 96. Yeah.
So NRL Grand Final was last night, and we spoke about earlier. An amazing when you put the two games together. Like I'm sure our listeners or our viewers would have a view on this. Can you pull out a better double act than what we've had in the past 24 hours?
No.
Great.
What about? Wouldn't Brisbane be flat at the minute?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what a performance by this young Brisbane team against an almighty outfit in Penrith. It was an incredible grand final. And a bit like you yesterday, you've had the big week. It got to about lunchtime. The sun's out. The birds are chirping. And I thought, I think I could probably pop down somewhere and, have a bit of a look. And did. It was incredible grand final. To think that, and for those who have a little bit of a flutter, gamble responsibly, but you have a little multi, and I went Brisbane. I went the underdog. I went Brisbane again. So the two underdogs.
0 from 2 for the weekend for you.
So I went Brisbane and they had to win by less 10. They couldn't win by more than 10. Sorry.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, we're in the second half, and they're 14 or 16.
You're worried they're going to win by too much.
And I'm going, okay, Penrith, you just get a try now, and then we get Reece Walsh to score another try, right? And then Penrith, I'm happy for them to score another to make it a great grand final. But I get because I needed him to score a try. That's why I needed one more. Do you get it?
Yes.
Yep.
I understand.
and then within the blink of an eye, they're a couple down, and their skipper.
Yeah, so Nathan Cleary, who's still only, I believe, 25 years old and already, talking about being, alongside
Immortal.
Andrew Johns in that sort of status. So,
He wrote himself. Andrew Johns said he believes now he sits comfortably in the immortal conversation. So at 25, that's
incredible.
And coming from Andrew Johns as well, that's pretty big praise.
Well, he's got the three-peat for Penrith and some origins. They're just speaking about and I know it's not all about the betting, but I love the little betting side stories. And when you talk about last night in the NRL, and I said last week I had the 100 to 1 on Penrith, so I was going pretty hard for Penrith in the last few minutes. So apparently,
so you got that.
Yeah.
You ended up winning that bet.
Yeah, so $10
So
at 100
you've
to 1.
rigged the raffle, and you've won that bet.
Got $1,000 out of bet.
So you're loaded.
No, I wouldn't say I'm loaded. I'm just paying off the debts that I've been accruing. So Better, the betting company, apparently had to pay out $72 million for a Penrith win. So I'd say they'd be hurting a little bit today. They've said it's going to take them a week to pay out the bets. So don't know where they're getting the money from. But just on the Clive Churchill, which is the NRL equivalent to the Norm Smith. So Nathan Cleary pre-game was a $3.50 favourite. He'd won last year. Ezra Mam from Brisbane, 26 to 1. Scored a hat-trick.
3 tries. He had it in the bag.
And amazing tries,
Had it in the bag, and they're winning by...
So he was $1.04 after he got his in live betting after this. So this is from Nick Quinn, who's a great betting man. Posted this on Twitter. He was $1.04 after his third try in live betting, and Cleary was out to $51 with 20 minutes left. And then he just turned on the most amazing 20 minutes of rugby league.
It is one of the... And once again, which is what's great about... I think like Norm Smith medals and Clive Churchill medals is that it comes down to the guy that actually grabs the game by the scruff of the neck and wins it, and not the guy. Because I'd argue that that maybe you don't get the 3 vote or however they vote in their Brownlow equivalent. I know they have a very different system, but that might be very different. Yeah.
Yep.
Would you agree?
Yep.
But a great grand final. I love my rugby league and was just blown away. Felt very sad for Brisbane. Again, I love that young Reece Walsh. Wow,
he's got some wheels,
and he's got some wheels.
Yeah. Similar athleticism to yourself.
Anyone beat, and a good-looking rooster too. He's got it all. He's got
a young family actually. Reece.
Has he?
Yeah, I think he's got a kid, doesn't he? I think so. I might be
wrong.
Yeah,
well, that's nothing wrong with that. But the young fella on the circuit,
That's what I'm saying. I think he might have settled down a bit earlier than some others in this room anyway.
Well, you had to.
Why?
Well, let's be honest. You were never.
I was going downhill. Yeah. I think
You never had a great deal of options.
My mates do say I peaked at about 19, I think. I think that's when the hair started going. And
No, but if you're young, Reece Walsh, you want to, yeah. Anyway, I hope not. I hope he's happy. That's the main thing. But it's, both coaches should be unbelievably happy with, how they turned it on, and both losers should be incredibly proud about their season. No losers when you lose by those margins in both codes, and I know there is, but you like I said, they should be very, very proud. Although it makes it even more heartbreaking knowing that you got so close.
Absolutely, we look around the world of sport as well. The Ryder Cup, of course, in golf with Europe against the US. It tends to have a bit more feeling than the President's Cup, which is the internationals against the US. There was a moment that I found really interesting. It kind of reminded me about how I go about my golf. So I'm a very bad golfer, but I love sledging.
So am I. Yeah.
I love sledging.
Golfing should be allowed. You should allow sledging in golf.
Well,
if a guy's lining up for a drive
in his backswing,
should be able to go or do like that's what I do with my mates.
So the context for this is so Rory McIlroy is on 18. It wasn't in the final round. It was earlier in the tournament on the Saturday maybe, and it was the caddy for Patrick Cantley. It was sort of in Rory's eye line a little bit, and Rory said, get the hell out of the way. And old mate started waving his cap around and gone back at Rory and started sledging him before he's moved off. It's been this big controversy because golf, normally there's this amazing etiquette that you just don't affect the player, but it was amazing.
It should be Happy Gilmore. No, how good would golf be if you could actually, and the amount of people that you'd get to more people you'd get there, and it might take the gentleman side out of it, but it would attract a bigger audience. And why is golf and tennis, by the way, the only two sports that you've got to be shh while they play? And yet, footy, you're lining up for goal. You've got 100,000 people booing while you're lining up for goal. Yet you've got to hear a pin drop for tennis players when they're serving.
Tennis is ridiculous. Tennis, you should be able to cheer. Golf, I can kind of understand a little bit. Because it's just a bit different in that sort of you think just open slather?
Open slather. You should let the supporters, as they say, they pay their money.
I did laugh when I saw Lowry. Is it Shane Lowry? Anyway, Lowry, who was playing for Europe.
The only Lowry I remember is Steve. No, it's one of those movies.
Where are you going?
Anyway,
I don't know your pop culture references.
He's a smooth character in a movie.
Okay. Well, anyway, he was
Mike Lowry.
One of the officials
People will let us know who Mike Lowry is.
One of the officials was telling the crowd, quiet please everyone while he's, and mate Lowry says, mate, you're making more bloody noise than they are. Told him to shut up, walked away. So anyway, a bit going on in the Ryder Cup. Got some listener viewer questions.
And we're very grand final focused today, obviously, because they're just a magnificent week.
Now,
that didn't come out right either. Magnificent.
So there's a few around their tips for the grand final. I'm just going to acknowledge a few people here. The first one is from Joe. In my opinion, the Lions forward line needs to peel out, burn rubber and tear ass. If Danaher and Cameron can get 3 majors apiece against the formidable and unpredictable Magpies defence, they could win the grand final. Lachie Neale needs at least 2 dozen disposals.
Well, they were 3 and 2, so they'd got one more.
I think they got 3 and 3. They did get 3 and 3, but
was it 3 and 3 in the end?
Yeah, it didn't quite happen because Joe kicked that last one in the last minute. From Tony, I think Brisbane can win this one. They haven't lost to Collingwood since 2019. I know their record at the G's and good. We're talking a grand final, and if Cameron Danaher and Hipwood can fire, Collingwood will be in trouble. They need to cover both the Goey and the Dacos boys. What did you think about the Dacos boys and their game?
Oh, well, they were both unbelievably solid. The handball, Nick Dacos and the class that he showed, the one that back inside, so he had 2 big moments, Nick Dacos, in that last quarter, and they both turned into goals. The quick handball over to Goey, and then the ball back into the corridor. So he was huge. He had a great game.
That reminds
so did Josh.
That 666 infringement. It's been spoken about. I think it was in the last quarter that I spoke to Mason Cox. Do you think it was a set play? And in those moments, you didn't have 666 when you were playing, but do you have certain setups for certain moments where you want to hit the footy?
You would like a perfect opportunity. Clearly, if the ball's bounced and it goes off on a little bit angle, then whatever plan you've made, the ruckman has to change on the go.
Yep.
So there are.
So they throw it up. You know exactly what.
If they throw it up, you pretty much know. Well, you do, within a small space. So yeah, you're right. I don't know whether they did it deliberately or not, but it would make sense if they wanted a perfect play.
Just the final one on the tips going into the grand final. This one's from Nick, and it's my favourite. Duck has picked Brisbane! ! Awesome! ! Guaranteed Collingwood flag.
And I did say that all week when I was tipping Brisbane. I said that Collingwood supporters should be actually cheering that I tipped against them again, because every time I do, they win.
This is from Brad. Hi, boys. Fantastic pod. Should all final series be played at the G? More seats for fans, bigger sales figures. All get to play at the G on grand final day. Should they be doing it earlier?
Well, some are saying that, it's too much an advantage that the game is played at the G every year, given Collingwood play there just about every week and Brisbane have played how many games there. So, there's an argument. Our competition is not fair in a lot of ways. We spoke about, we haven't really spoken a lot about priority picks for North Melbourne, and
I've got a question on that shortly.
Okay.
So
we'll get into that. So even the draw is not fair. So just so many variables, so much grey. Playing at the MCG every year is another one of those variables that unfortunately will never change unless we have a disease come in and we have to get out of Victoria again. By the way, that was a good result too.
Getting out of Victoria?
No.
What?
The Premier stepping down. Didn't speak about that.
Oh, you're happy with you? Were you on the front steps of Parliament drinking those 4X cans?
It wasn't, but I was happy about it.
It doesn't really bother me either way. But I know a lot of people.
I think a lot of people were fairly happy, but only because I got locked up.
Yeah, so I didn't. So I don't have those same feelings of.
Oh, that's right. You were up in.
I got away. It was a good
Brisbane.
thing for me.
Yeah. So no, I think like a lot of people. Yeah. By the way, all in shock about it, but incredibly happy.
Yeah,
I think we can all move on now.
Yeah, and maybe there's that certain mental. I mean, I know it was a very difficult time for a lot of people for very different reasons during COVID.
People's lives have been changed forever.
Yeah.
Because of decisions.
Definitely a moment in time. Key forwards.
More than a moment. We got locked up more than any other place in the whole world.
Well, I know that when I say a moment, in your whole life, it's only a few months, but I know you're a very social butterfly. So you like to be out and about. Just on Collingwood's forward line, because you'd been quite critical, and we touched on Brodie Myercheck earlier. This is from Ben Cook. The Eagles won 2 flags with Carl Langdon. Jeez, he's a bit of a sledge with Carl when we're comparing.
Oh, boy.
Carl, good man, actually, Carl Langdon. I often done a bit with him over in our team in Perth.
Carl was a bit bigger than Brodie Myercheck.
Well, that's a great segue into the next question. It's hi, Ayrton. Could you ask Duck how? This is from Nab. Could you ask Duck how he feels about being the same height as Myercheck?
Is he the same height as me?
So I just want to check this. So what are you?
194. Hang on, with heels or no heels?
No heels. What are you? Oh no, he might actually be taller than you. You're 194, you reckon?
Yep.
193 for Myercheck on his official profile.
So pretty much the same height.
Yep.
Okay, well, there you go. He plays shorter.
Big congratulations too. I got a photo. I know his brother Tyson, who had a good night out on the Saturday night, so shout out to Tyson. Jack Ginnivan, love the show. This is from John. I must be the only one, but how does he get a game? How's he on a list and has never dominated a game? Well, I don't know if he's never dominated a game, but what did you think of
Anzac medal?
What did you think of Jack?
What did I think?
Yeah.
Did what he always does, I think. Didn't have a massive game, but I think by the sounds of things, he's back to winner at Moonee Valley the night before.
I saw him tweet Swanee just before I walked in too. He said, "I'll see you later." I was thinking if I was a Collingwood official, I'd be a bit nervous about that too.
No, he'll be right.
You caught up with Swanee on Friday, did you? Would you have a function with Swanee at one stage?
I see Swanee around a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Just
You had a few
duck
nights
and
out
the-
with Swanee, have
the
you?
duck and the swan, just
What a dynamic duo.
floating a
that'd be.
couple of puddles.
You touched on grand final medals. This is from T. Kinvey. I like Duck's concept of a number of games gets you a medal if team wins. Our schoolboy first 18 jumper was not allowed to be kept unless she played 5 games. Second's jumper was different to first, but St. Pat's Ballarat first 18 was a pretty good earn at that level. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, yep. Agree with that.
And this is from Tigers 456. What about the players who get a season-ending injury early in the year? Do they deserve a medal?
That's why I put a cap on it. You know, I think you've got to play a certain amount of games. Like you can't just play 1 or 2 or 3. I think if you said you contributed, say, 10 games, then I think that's a healthy amount. That's just under half a year that you've contributed to the team to help them get to where they got to.
And finally, this is from Benny. Duck, what did you make of the assistance package given to North and all the whinging from Lyon and Scott? So Ross Lyon and Chris Scott during the week they sort of said it was, compromising the competition and
well read on. I saw their complaints and then heard Gill come out and talk about their complaints, and then Clarko sort of chimed in with picks and everything else. And
so first round selection this year and 2 next year.
At the end of the day,
end of first round.
Let's get one thing clear, and we've seen this, and history has shown us this. It doesn't matter what picks you get. The picks, you can give people picks all day long. We've seen, obviously 2 new teams. Obviously GWS have got it really right. Gold Coast probably not so right in their picks, right? And then you've got Melbourne went through a period. Carlton have had more picks in a second-hand pick truck.
That's one of your worst. That's horrific.
I don't know. So you've got to make the most of them. Now, North got them very right last year, I believe.
Sheasel Wardlaw.
Yeah.
Yep.
And others the way they've brought others in from other clubs as well. I think they had a good year last year. They need another good year, and probably another good year, and then you'll see the benefit of that. But you give people have butchered picks for a long time, so that's the key. It's not how many picks you get; it's making the most of them.
My concern for North.
What?
My concern for North, and I'm getting into them a little bit. I enjoy it because you're here. I mean this seriously. I'm worried they can still get worse before they get better for a few reasons. No Ben Mackay, key defensive post.
Oh yeah, and he's been solid as a rock, hasn't he?
Well, who replaced him? A young
Yeah,
kid.
good's he been? Well, I'll tell you what, you could have I reckon you could put a bloody scarecrow there and do as well as he did for half the...
Griffin Logue is injured. He's another key back. So that
He's injured right now.
wasn't he out for a while? Hasn't he got a serious?
We're talking about next year.
Hasn't he done an ACL at the end of the year?
Next year.
Didn't he do an ACL at the end of the
Well, he's
season?
got the whole summer to get over it.
No,
Was it an ACL, was it?
he's going to miss games. Jeez, I hope I haven't just brought
I
that
don't
up.
know.
Out
I
of
don't know
nowhere.
whether it's an ACL, but anyway.
On Todd Goldstein, albeit
He's 108. Yep.
yeah, but he you still played your best footy when he was rucking. I'm just googling Griffin Logue.
Well, you've got to move on.
Yes, you do. But what I'm saying is the guys that are replacing.
Yeah, obviously Cunnington.
And you moved Cunnington and Zeeble on as well.
Oh, well, what? Do you think both Cunnington and Zeeble should have played on for another year for the sake of...
No, I'm not saying. No, you're misinterpreting what I'm saying.
Well, I don't think Zeeble... obviously, Ben, going through what he went through and then not playing at the end. No, so what I'm saying is Ben hardly played this year,
Yes.
so let's... his influence has been profound, as has Zeeble's, but Zeeble's best footy was part... can you believe Jack Zeeble finished quite high up in North's BNF?
So that's my point, mate.
Well, it also shows you how weak the BNF was.
Yeah, exactly. So you're losing this senior talent when and just while we're here, Griffin Logue did rupture his ACL.
Okay.
So
All right.
good
All
to
right,
see.
they need a defender. There you go. That's
Need
something
about
they'll go
3
out and find.
defenders.
Very good.
Duck, it's been great to speak with you again today. I know you've got a big interview coming up that you're going to mentally prepare yourself for. Huge grand final week. Relieved it's over, but I'll see you again soon. We are going to keep going.
No, we're going to keep going. Don't worry about that. We're going to punch through. Big meeting tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Come on, big guest.
Oh, righto. The Truth Hurts. We'll see you again soon.
You can either take the red pill. You'll wake up. everything was a dream. Or you can take the black pill. You can get torched.
Well, I suppose getting torched won't hurt that much. I don't feel anything.
Wait for it.
Oh, wait. I just got a new client.
Get torched! Get torched! Get torched!